Hello, my name is GLEB LASAREW. I'm a music producer and mixing engineer from Nuremberg. Right now I'm sitting here in my studio. Probably some of you know me from my Ableton workshops, which I do on a regular basis. Unfortunately, right now I can't do any group courses, so I thought it may be a good idea to do a little tutorial for you guys. So today's topic is going to be mixing. I prepared a little track for you the last few hours and I'm going to mix it with you. So I'm going to show you what I use, how I use it, and why I use it. If you have any questions, just drop me a comment or leave a message. I hope you enjoy. Have fun. So before I start a mix, there are a few things I want to do first. First thing is listen to it. Sure, if you work for a client, you don't know how the track sounds, listen to it, get your rough idea what to do and what you need. If you work for yourself, it's always good to have a break after you produce the track to just mix it with fresh ears and a new perspective. So after I listen to the song, what I do is rendering the song as it is, kind of as a rough mix. So what I do with the rough mix is I add an audio track. Already rendered it here on the left side. So what you see, this is just a rendering of my track above. And what I want to do with that is pretty simple. I just want to reference myself. So for example, if I have like a tricky decision and I'm not sure, I can just go back to my reference track and decide if it's a good decision or a bad one. Because often it's also good to leave things as they are and not to make them worse. We only want to optimize, but all the good things we want to leave. So what I do here with this reference track, I do a key command on the solo button, for example on the key 1, and then I deactivate the track. I rename it, reference, cool. So I'm gonna show you what happens if I press 1, then my reference is active. If I press 1 again, it's deactivated, I can hear my mix. I'm gonna show you real quick. Right now, we didn't do anything, so they sound completely the same, but after a while, you will hear a difference. So with this key command, I can switch from one mix to the other and compare, which is a pretty good thing. So the second thing I want to do is to cut my frequency range or adjust it wherever I need to. So let's listen to the song, and if there's something that I want to do right away, I'm going to tell you and do it. Okay, here where the clap kicks in, we have a few elements going on, so just make a loop and go through the elements and see what we can do there. My go-to EQ is the Fabfilter Pro Q3. I usually have it on every track. I'm gonna show you real quick. If I add the new audio track, I already have the Pro key in there. Same goes with the MIDI track. I use it on basically every channel I have, if I need to. But usually I need EQing at some point or the other. So let's go from top to bottom. I go to the kick. Sounds fine for me right now. Already have even 2 Pro Qs there, but they don't do anything because I wanted to show what I do there. So let's go to the clap. Okay, perfect. Let's open the Fabfilter. It's just like, I don't know even how many bands it has because I never get to the limit, but it has like quite a lot and I like the user interface of this EQ. That's the reason why I'm using it. If you don't have it or you don't like it, feel free to use any other, or like even use the EQ8 from Ableton standard equalizer. It will do the job. It's more important to do the job and not with what you do, but that you do it. So first thing I want to adjust are the low frequencies, because we don't really need a lot of low frequencies in the clap. So let's check that. Okay, and I listen with this little headphone if there's really a lot of information. I go from left to right, and I go to that point that I think we're gonna lose something if I go further, and then I go back a bit. So I think around 100 Hertz is fine. You can hear around 275. We already hear like the main sound of the clap. I probably don't want to cut that, so I just leave it with around 100. And this thing I want to continue with every track. Because the problem is, if we have too much low end going on in elements which don't need low end, then we're gonna struggle with like a nice kick and bass structure. So I'm gonna repeat it with the hi-hat. I already have a Pro Q3 here, so same procedure. Perfect. Then baseline, I think we can also leave as it is. Sounds fine to me for the moment. We're gonna take care about it later. What is about that sample? I mean, there's a reverb, already an auto filter, which is automated. Okay, let's check the frequency range. It has a lot of low end, so we want to cut that here. Yeah, I think this should do the job. Let's listen to it again. Probably at this point we can't hear too much difference to before, but we gave the low end a bit more room. So the next thing I want to do is to cut the resonances, because in hi-hat I'm sure we have a few frequencies that we need to adjust. So what I do if I'm looking for resonances that I don't like, just like take a band of my EQ and go through it to a point where it sounds better than without, and then I'll double check it when I'm hearing it in the mix. Yeah, I think I don't like this frequency, I want to cut it. Maybe even roll off some of the really, really high end. This looks good to me, so now let's A/B the EQ and listen to it with and without. So we don't have this little resonancy, where is it? Yeah, around 6.5K. Yeah, it's not too much, just a bit. We cleaned that up, let's do the same with the clap. Okay, I just took away some mids from the clap, which usually helps to fit it in the mix. Let's listen to it together and A/B it. Up to my taste, it sounds a bit better into the mix, so let's leave it like it is and continue. Maybe we have some other elements where we need to cut something. So we have two new elements coming. First one is the snare. Second one is this little melody thing which is going on here and starts in full action after the break. So let's listen to it and also check with our Fabfilter. And you see right away it also has a low flow end. And I know that my kick and my bass line, they need that space down there, so I'm gonna cut it. It might be different in your track, just listen to it and go back and forth if it really benefits your mix or not, and if the answer is not, just like cut less of the lows than you did. You see, I also don't cut too much right now. Maybe I'll cut more even later. But at the moment, I just want to get rid of the frequencies that are really not important for the sound. And I think down here, this is also the area where the bass is gonna play a big role. We don't need it. Perfect. So let's go to the snare. Also a lot of low end. Let's check if we need that or not. I think around here is already, you see this little thing here? I think this is important for the snare sound, but everything before that is not that important. And it has quite a lot of low end, so I want to cut it even steeper. Just the feeling right now, not sure if it will work out, I'm just gonna try. Okay, so listen to it again. Gonna jump through. No new elements. I think here one is coming. Already see it. Okay, and you hear a new write is coming, and a write, especially a 909 write, gives me quite a lot of work to do, and I'm gonna show you why and what to do. So let's listen to it solo. First of all, it has quite a few of low end, which I probably don't need. Let's check. I would even say up to 250 Hertz. There's nothing really going on, which is important for the write. But what I think is even more important are the resonances in the higher frequency spectrum. So let's check that. You hear kind of a ringing, maybe like if you're not familiar to it, you won't probably hear it right away, but if you like cut the resonances a few times, you will hear them even easier. So let's do that again. Just take a little band, maybe a bit steeper, not too broad, and we go through till we find the frequencies that is bothering us. Oopa, here it is. Okay, but I think this is not the only frequency that's really a problem. Let's take another. And I'm gonna A/B the equalizer, and you're gonna check if you hear any difference. I hear quite a drastic difference. The last thing I want to do here, I mean, we could go on with cutting, but at a certain point it doesn't make any sense because you also need some resonances in the frequency spectrum. I just want to take those out that take too much of our attention, because this is nothing I really want in here. Maybe your decision is different, but this is a crucial part of getting like a clean, good sounding sound. You could like repeat this whole thing on every track you have. Roll off some high end, and now let's listen in the mix. So without. And with the EQ. I think it sounds a bit better. So we cut the low end where we don't need it. We can double check here, and maybe even a bit more. So, okay, we cut the low end, like took some resonances away. A big part of a good bass sound, so I'm talking about bass drum and bass line, is that they're matching. So tuning is a big point. I already tuned my synthesizer, which is a emulation of a Roland SH101. It's one of my favorite synths. I also have it like as a hardware unit here. Really like it. This little software thing sounds pretty good, like really good. I like it for trying out and do like little melodies. It's digitally, so it's already in tune with the notes you can see here, which is no problem. But the kick, I'm not sure if it's in tune. Let's check. I think I work here in F minor. Yes, should be F minor. So I want to tune the kick to an F. There are different ways to do that. Like the first thing is by ear, but it's pretty hard because in the low end our ears are not that sensitive. It's pretty hard to like guess the note. What you could do, you could use a tuner, which again the problem is if the frequencies are too low, the tuner does not do anything because this device is just for like really easy kind guitar sounds. For example, to tune a guitar, this device would be awesome. For bass drum, not too much. So the next thing I could do, I could check like the frequency with a spectrum analyzer, which is also like the most analytic way I could do it, the most precise. So I'm going to show you real quick. If I start the kick, and you see this little peak right here. If you look on the left bottom side, you see the frequency, like in this area. You see the frequency, and below the frequency you see the note. So every note has a certain frequency. You can check that via Google. Just look for frequency in notes or notes in frequency, and you will see, for example, like a G0 is 84.9 Hertz. So every note has its own frequency. And we see here our bass drum right now is rather somewhere around A sharp than an F. So I want to tune it. And it's a bit easier to tune if you put the bass drum 1 octave higher and then listen to it again, because then we can hear more clearly what's going on there. We have 2 equalizers. I'm not sure why, so I'm going to delete one. We don't need to. And I'm going to open the tuner. Sometimes if the bass drum is a bit higher, the tuner reacts even better. So let's try that. Okay, let's check the peak here. It's like G sharp right now, so let's go down a bit. Still too sharp. Okay, one more down. If I wanted to do it completely precise, I would need to check like the frequency and then go back here and look that the bass drum hits like the certain frequency. I just do it like right now by ear and like with my little meters. Okay, I think we're fine. So, but the bass drum right now is way too high. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go an octave lower. It's like +9 minus 12 is -3. And now let's check the bass drum again. It's a bit deeper. Let's check how it was before. This is the bass drum before. And now after. I would say right now it fits a bit better to our bass line because it's on the same root key, which is pretty nice. So, but this is not enough with the bass drum. Let's check the EQ. What I like to do with my bass drums, not all of them, but in this case, I would roll off some high end. Not too much, just a tiny bit. Let's go back again. You also could check if you cut like the really low frequencies. The problem here, if you don't hear it really good, then it's sometimes hard to do that. So if you don't have like a treated room or something, I always use headphones. If like I'm on the go, not in the studio or something, because headphones usually go lower. This area, probably nothing that we need too much. And there's also like with those 909 bass drums, which I know from experience, they have like a little space between 100 and 200 hertz, which I can cut, which usually works quite good for me. So let's try. I think this area. So again, let's go through the steps. First step was tuning. We did it with the Spectrum and the tuner. You could also do it like with the frequencies. You need to research what certain frequency and also to know on what note you want to tune. So, and the second part was the EQ. So let's go back. Down. Now with our step. Okay, cool. I think we have a bit of more low end here. I could boost like the root key of here, but I don't want to because I have a little device called Decapitator. It's a distortion unit from Soundtoys I really like, and it's pretty straightforward. Like I use it on every mix I have. I really like it, and to this point I don't know any device from Ableton, stock device, that could do this job. So you have any idea or you use something else, let me know. I'm pretty excited to hear what you use. I use this one, really like it. So it has this little drive button. Let's try it out. Okay, and I think we have a little cool bass drum going on here. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna group the EQ and our distortion unit so I can A/B it on one button, and let's listen to it with and without effects. We have quite a lot more bass going on, it's more precise, I like it. Let's listen to it in a mix. Perfect. Next thing we should take care of are the volumes, so gain staging. You could do this with like something called pink noise trick. I don't use this trick too often. There are engineers and persons that use it. It's pretty cool. You can Google it. It's like you take pink noise as a reference, which is equal on all frequency ranges to our human ear, and then like gain stage you mix to that. I usually try to do it by ear, so what I do, I just deactivate all tracks, then I'm just activate the kick, and I'll usually make sure that I have like enough headroom, which is also only crucial so that you don't distort. I don't want any clipping, like no red lights, it's no good for us. So kick looks good, it's like hits -10 peak, which is totally fine. After that is done, I just activate the next element and go completely down with the fader and then slowly up and check like if there are any sweet spot I like. Okay, I think this is fine. Next element. Okay, it's cool. You don't like to nail it like 100%. You can do that like on the go after you adjust different other steps, because right now we just want to have like a rough balance. So next element would be the bass line. Cool. Then the sample which never stops because I have the freeze button activated at certain point, and then it just does this little loop thing. Sounds good to my ears, so let's compare it, A/B, to before and after. Important if you compare something is that you gain match it. So it should have the same level, or like almost the same level, so you can A/B it. Because if it has different levels, then usually you prefer the louder ones. And yeah, the louder ones are not the better ones, so we want to make it equal in volume and then compare. So let's check how loud is our mix. It peaks around minus 6.5 dBFS, so let's check our reference. It peaks around minus 1.5, which is a lot louder, so I take 5 dB off. Okay, cool. Now let's A/B it. You remember I have the key command on 1, and let's listen to it before and after. Okay, perfect. So what we did here, we did a lot of EQing, a bit of gain staging. We also have a few other elements coming in later in that song, so let's adjust those also. For example, the right I think is way too loud. Let's do the same here. Okay, then the melody. Okay, cool. I think this works. So let's sum up what we did. We did tune the bass drum, we distort the bass drum, we did a bit of EQing. We cut off highs where we don't need them, we cut off lows where we don't need them. We took off frequencies that are taking too much attention. Best example is always the 909 right, which is also a good point to practice. And we gain staged a bit, so we did some rough editing on the volume faders, and we A/B'd with the reference we heard before. Just make it white. My reference is always white, which is also an important point. Like, I always use the same colors for certain elements, and also I name them. So I don't know, something like that. Even if you know at that moment what track this is, like if you look into the project a week, a month, a year later, you probably won't know. So name it properly, it will help you to work with it. Okay, save. And the next part is that we talk about delays, reverbs, choruses, everything this gives us like spatial things and dimension. So we get a bit of depth in our mix, and yeah. Okay, let's continue. Let's listen to it real quick again. Let's take care about our clap. I think our clap could benefit from some delay, and also what I saw that our clap has quite some high peaks, but the average level is not so high, so we could take care about that. You see this dark green. Also, it sounds a bit weak, so what I try to do is to distort it, which is often a quite good way also to kind of compress it. So by adding distortion, you also compress the sound. Let's try that. You also will see that the peaks will be not that high, but the average will be higher, and so the clap sounds louder even if the peak level is lower. So let's listen to it with and without. Without, it's minus 10.7, and with the distortion, yeah, you see the peak level is minus 16.5, so it's quieter, but it sounds louder, which is a good thing. So we kind of compressed it and give it a fuller sound, which I like. Let's listen to it in the mix. Cool, works for me. So let's continue with the clap. I have on my return tracks, I prepared a few delays and a little reverb. It's a little plate on return channel A from Soundtoys. On B we have the Echoboy, which is like my go-to delay I use on certainly every mix. Yeah, really every mix. Then I have Echoplex from Universal Audio, nice emulation, and an emulation from the legendary Space Echo, also from Universal Audio. So I don't know. I think I will gonna use the Echoboy for something else. So let's go with the Echoplex and listen to it. If I dial in some of the C send, how it sounds. Okay, first thing I mentioned that our delay effect is not completely 100% dry wet. I see it because of this little button here, so we'll turn it on wet. What this means, I will show you quick with another effect from Ableton. If you take, for example, the delay, on the bottom right, you have a dry wet button. So if you're working in parallel, that means with a return track or also auxiliary send, then it's good to go by 100% because you want to add 100% effect to already 100% original sound. So that's what I did with this little button here, where it stands wet. Okay, cool. And now let's try to listen to it with the kick and try to figure out what kind of delay time would fit best for the clap. You see, I don't sync it to my tempo because I want to do it by ear, which is not 100% synced then, but it sounds more natural to me and I like that. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Now, let's adjust. Cool, that gives the clap a bit more space. So let's also EQ this return channel. Just cutting off some lows, which we don't need on that return channel. Let's continue. Okay, cool. So let's continue with the other sounds. I think we didn't do anything till now on the bass line. It already sounds good, but we could give it some more space. So what I like to do is take an audio effect track, already have like this little preset prepared, where I have like two chains. One is the dry, so here we have no effect, and on the other we can put an effect. For example, let's take a delay. And also again, because here we work in parallel, 100%. So also, what is a good thing, I can now adjust the parallel track where the delay is with an own EQ. And so the dry doesn't have anything, and then the wet with the delay has an EQ on it. Sure, we can also put something on our dry track. So let's listen to it and adjust the delay. I think a ping pong delay would work fine here, so let's do this. I think it's too much delay right now, so let's adjust that. And I try to listen to it with the kick. You saw I went from dotted 1/8 to normal, which I think sounds better. I went here for the sync one because it was already in this default preset. You could also do it like just by with the milliseconds by time, but I think this will work fine for the moment. Okay, let's go to another really important topic, which is mono compatibility, hard word. Problem is we have a really low element, which is our bassline, and I put some stereo effect on it. So what could happen now if I switch it to mono, and a lot of sound systems are mono, then we could have phase issues, and maybe some of the stereo effects will mess with our bassline and our stereo with it. It could disappear. So we could check that. I have this little Ozone imager, which is, I think it's a free plugin by Ozone, and I don't use this width button or something else. I just want this correlation meter. Unfortunately, Ableton doesn't have any standard correlation meter, which is sad, but yeah. I have the Ozone one, so it's fine. And let's look at it and see what we could get out of that information. So you see we have a positive number, negative number, and we have a 0, so +1, 0, -1. If it's in the 0 to +1 area, everything is fine. So we don't need to do anything. If it goes negative, just a bit, also fine. But if we are in the negative area all the time, then we probably have phase issues, and we could or we should deal with that. So let's just listen to the delay and see what happens. You see it goes negative. That means that probably in the lower end we have too much stereo going on, but with my Fabfilter Pro Q, it has like a real nice function. We can cut only the sides, so only the stereo information from the bottom. I'll do like a low cut. This doesn't affect all the bass, just like the stereo information of it. And let's check our correlation meter if I move our low cut. You see, right now it gets to the positive area where everything is fine. Perfect. So we have like a strong mono bass. Also, subwoofers right now are always mono, so we have to make sure that like not too much stereo information going on to the subwoofers. They just can't do anything with that because they're mono. But still you can put a bass line into stereo with like a ping pong delay and just cut the stereo lows out. And you could check that with one of these little correlation meters. There are a lot around of these effects, so yeah, just pick any and you would do the job. So let's listen in the mix. Sounds a bit more interesting to me, so fine for the moment. Let's continue with the mix. I think at this point the hi-hat sounds pretty dry. Maybe we could add some reverb. You remember I have this little plate on return channel A. Also, immediately I know that this little plate reverb adds a lot of low end, which I don't really want, so let's cut that right away. Okay, I think for the moment this is just fine. And now let's adjust how much reverb we want. I think the reverb is a bit too long, so let's adjust the length of the decay of the reverb. This is the shortest I can get. This is fine. It's already 100% dry wet, which is also cool. Gives a bit more of life to the hi-hat. Let's listen in the mix. Maybe even a bit less, just a tiny bit. Okay, this is not enough. I barely can hear it in the mix, so let's boost a bit. Okay, sounds good to me. Let's continue. Okay, we have this little melody here. Maybe it could also benefit from some delay. I remember we have the B delay on the return track B. We have the Echoboy, I'm sorry. So let's try to use that one. So I decided to have like a really low and short delay time to just add a bit more of depth to the melody. So let's adjust the second one. Cool, perfect. Perfect. What also could work good if we add delay directly on the hi-hat. Let's try that. I just take my awesome Echoboy and put it to 1/16. And mix button not to 100% because we want to hear something from the original. I don't know, let's take like something around 25%. Don't like that too much, so let's try something else. Okay, I'm not sure what to do right now with a hi-hat. I think it could benefit from something else. Not sure what it could be right now. So maybe let's concentrate on a different topic. So we have the sample here going on, which plays this little melody. Yeah, it starts around here. We could add some of the space echo here. So space echo looks like this. If you don't have the space echo, Ableton also has a standard effect called echo, which is pretty good. You could use that. So, I mean, this is an emulation of the old Roland tape echo. Probably some of you know. Again, we have like a only wet button. I only want the wet signal because it's a return track, we work in parallel. And we have this little tape loop button, which I like. So you could select how the tape sounds. Does it sound old, used, or new? So you have like those little artifacts if you take used or old one, which I think is pretty cool. So let's adjust the delay time and see what we could do. Again, let's cut the lows on the return track. Yeah, I like that one because we can hear a bit more of the sample in the mix, even if it does not delay too much because there's this little pad going on there, which is fine for the moment. So another thing we need to take care of is grouping. You don't need to group stuff, but if you, example, want to put a certain effect on a group of something, then it's a pretty good idea. So I think we could put a distortion on all of our drums. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm going to add an audio track, gonna rename it to drum boss, color it white, take all of our drum sounds and put them to drum bass. So sure, some of you will say, yeah, why are you doing that? You could also just take all of them and group them. Yeah, you could. I just don't like this because I want my signal flow from left to right, so all these go into that. But technically it's the same, you could also group them. I think it was not possible to group groups within groups before Ableton 10, so I always stick with like this audio track busing system, which I also know from like other programs and consoles. So this was like felt more natural to me, but you could do it any other way. So I routed them to the drum bus, monitor on and on in, and now we have like this track where all the drum parts are going to. So again, let's take the Decapitator and try what we could add to the drums. I use this to kind of glue them together, not too much to distort. Even if it's like a distortion unit, I rather use it like to compress and to glue together. You could also use something like an AP2500, any other bus compressor is just fine. I like the distortion thing, especially on this mix. So yeah, let's listen to it. It does not add too much, just a tiny bit. The kick is more upfront, also the clap. It sounds like it's more from like one instrument. I like that, so let's listen to it in the mix. Now, this may be a good moment to again AB to our rough mix, to our reference mix. You remember I have it on key command 1. Also, let's put this white and now listen to it. Again, I see right now our mix got a bit louder, so we need to adjust the gain. So let's check that. How loud is our mix at this certain point? Around minus 5.2. So let's check our reference mix. It's a bit quieter, minus 6. So let's add 1 dB. Sure, right now I'm only gain matching like the peak. It's a bit harder to gain match like the average level, the RMS level. but I'm fine with the peak level right now. So this is how it sounds before again. And now after. What is also interesting, you see the average level on our reference mix is way lower. You could also really hear it because we add distortion, which like affects the dynamics of the track, which is a good thing because like we want to have it louder without distorting. So a good way to achieve that is like to adjust the dynamics, not too much, but like especially in electronic music, I think to work with distortion is a really good idea because this adds harmonic content and also helps to deal with like dynamic issues. For example, as you remember on the GLEB, even though it's quieter on the peaks right now, it sounds way louder after we put on this distortion unit. So let's listen to it again, and maybe after that we have 1 or 2 more ideas what we could do. Okay, I remember having a little automation here on the sustain of the hi-hat sample. I think after it goes up, it's a bit too loud, so let's check that again. Maybe we need to adjust. Yeah, it's a tiny bit too loud. So what I sometimes like to do, because if like we have this little point, it's sometimes hard to adjust. You can go right click, edit value, and go like, I don't know, -2. And now let's check again. Still a bit too loud, -3 maybe. Maybe what we could also do is distort the bassline a bit. Again, Decapitator. And also, there's this plugin called Tal Chorus. It's a free plugin from Tal, I think is the company, yes. It's an emulation of the legendary chorus from Roland Juno 106, 66. It has this chorus, and I pretty like this emulation, use it a lot. It just adds like stereo width, which is nice. Again, because you work in parallel, let's rename this chorus. Here we had echo. Again, we want to have a EQ on it. And again, we can check for the phase correlation. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. You see again, this goes in the negative, so let's cut the sides. Okay, and now let's listen to the whole bass line with all the effects on. I think this is too loud at the moment, so I'm gonna A/B this whole effect track. It's like, I don't know, parallel bass effects or barrel bass effects. I think the chorus is still a bit too loud. I just want to add a tiny bit of it. Also, what we could do is just cut the lows a bit. We don't need too much bass frequency around here because we already have it like in the original signal. Okay, it adds a bit of stereo wood, which I like. What we could adjust right here from part to part is, for example, the amount of echo we have. Just a little example. So it starts like with not too much echo, then it goes up before the first little break, or like when the bass drum here is missing, and then goes up to our level. You could also even like do something like that, I guess. I mentioned before I was not so happy with the hi-hat, but I think we can leave it like this for now. It already sounds good. Maybe I just would mess around like with any other crazy effect or effect automation. Yes, so I remember we did not too much on the snare, so let's check there too. Okay, I would imagine that a delay that goes further up in the break is a good idea. So let's check the Echoboy here. Okay, this delay is too short. I think we already used all of them, so let's do one more return track. Cool. And adjust our delay. Let's listen to it in the mix if the delay time is fine. Yeah, I think 294 is cool. So I'm gonna do here, I take a dual echo mode and I'm gonna put this delay time to 296 and this stays at 294. So we have like left and right a bit of difference, maybe even a bit more. You can check that by ear. Cool. And I want to have a bit more feedback so I can automate over time so it smoothly blends into our break. Let's listen to it. I think in this little break, the hi-hat is a bit too loud. I think this little automation works fine. We can leave that. Okay, when I want to do a little automation, I always use utility. Why I use that, I can show you real quick. If you put your automation on like your volume fader, let's do this, like little automation. Problem is that the volume fader now has this little red button. That means, look out, there's an automation. So if I want to adjust something here, the automation gets lost. If I take it back, our manipulation on the volume track gets lost. So it's not a good idea to put any automations for track volume on this fader here, or all of those faders. It's not a good idea. What I do is I just take utility, and do the automation on the gain button. Sorry, not bottom, button. On the button, and let's do like 2 decibel quieter, maybe even 3, I'm not sure right now, let's listen to it. Yeah, way better. And after that we can go again up to 0 as it was before. Now listen to this. Okay, last thing is the melody. We have right now on the melody, we just have this little EQ. Maybe cut even a bit more. And you remember we made this little echo for our snare. We could also use this one for our melody. Yeah, sounds cool. And it could like be a bit more in the end. Okay, sounds cool to me. I just checked like the drum group if everything sounds fine. So let's listen to it again and A/B it through the whole mix with our rough mix, with our reference. One last thing, I think the bass drum is a bit too loud, so let's adjust that. Okay, I think most of you will get the idea. It sounds fuller, we have more bass, like more controlled bass. We got rid of all the frequencies we don't want that take too much of our attention. One thing I want to tell you is always check your return channels, that you also have an EQ on that. If you want to try to distort your reverbs, pretty good idea. Okay, here we did not do anything, so let's check that one. I just really want you to cut the real lows. Perfect. Then here we don't have any EQ. Again, Fabfilter Pro Q3. And if we want to be really precise, then I would need to take one of those isotope imager things with the correlation meter we used before and really check every single track. For example, here you see it goes a bit negative. I don't think it's too bad here for this little reverb, but we could also take care of that by just put one more band and cut a bit off the sides. Let's do this real quick. I think it just needs a bit more. Okay, and by this technique we could check like every single track. And we don't want this thing to go negative too much. If it's like just a tiny bit like the reverb, we could deal with that. If it's too much, we should take care about that. So again, Echoboy on return track B. Let's cut a bit more of the lower sideband. Maybe a tiny bit more. I mean, we could take everything off, but like do it step by step. If you do too much, you can again ruin your mix, which nobody of us wants. Okay, same problem. And you could repeat this with any channel. Yes. So this was my mixing tutorial. I hope you enjoyed. I know we did not cover every single aspect of mixing, but I hope I could give you a broad overview what to do and what techniques they are and how to use them. So if you don't have enough at that moment, feel free to visit my website. If you want to, I can mix your next track. You can book me for a studio session or a workshop. Also, if you're around, you can come by for a coffee. I hope you enjoyed. Have a nice day and hope to see you soon.